Well, when you see a guy like Khabib Nurmagomedov just run through people in the UFC, and you know where that guy's from, you got to go, well, how many more of those guys are over there? You know?
Yeah.
The Dagestan crew, and that's Zabit too. He's from Dagestan. Isn't Islam Makhachev? Isn't he from that part of the world as well?
Yeah. That's where
killers. There he is. Boom, 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 boom. That's it.
Yeah. So the
it's
Caucasus,
first round.
right?
Yeah. That's a warrior group of people.
Yeah. There's a lot of
history.
So I get to go there a lot. I mean, it's really exciting. I get to see a lot of really cool stuff.
What is Dagestan like?
Okay, Dagestan was a blast. Dagestan was fun, man.
Really?
Yeah, I went there. I was there with who was also at the show. They brought over Verdun and those guys weren't working. Verdun and Anderson Silva, those guys were watching fights. Just but I was working. But yeah, they took us around. They showed us a lot of really cool stuff. I went to like school where some kids wrestling school, like a lot of schools that were athletic with an athletic orientation, and seeing these little kids. Man, they put this little kid up on a bar and had him doing pull-ups, man. He was doing pull-ups. I mean, this little bitty kid did, I mean, it must have been at least 15 pull-ups. And then,
how old was he?
I mean, he was a little kid.
Like 5, 6?
Not like something like 9 or something like that. And when the coach pulled him off, he was mad. You could see he was mad. He's like, man, I got more. You know what I mean? He was mad, like, really show the people what I could do. Wow. But and the crowd, they loved MMA so much. They were like, it was like, you know what it was like? It was like, you ever watch those videos of like the Beatles, you know what I mean? When all the people going crazy, but it's not teenage girls. It's like a bunch of hard little wrestlers.
Wow.
All just packs like, ah. Yeah, I've got some pictures from somewhere. Yeah, I can show them to you.
Wow. So it's that popular over there.
Yeah.
Now, did you see the video of those dudes when Khabib beat Conor and they're shooting machine guns into the air?
Oh, I didn't see that, but I saw one of my friends from that area sent me some pictures. She was out on the street. She sent some pictures to my wife of them, some video of guys shooting and horse racing. Had horses. There were horses down. Yeah, some video. That was like,
horse racing and shooting guns at the same time.
People were so excited about that. That was some energy there. Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? You're from a place that many parts of the world have never heard of. Until I don't know how much I thought about Dagestan before Khabib came around, and then now they have not just a world champion, but a guy who smashed the most famous fighter on the planet, or one of the most famous fighters on the planet. It's like him and Floyd Mayweather are probably the two most famous fighters.
Yeah,
and Khabib just ran through him. So like, he's a huge star over there.
Yeah, he's huge. So it's a fun place to go. Matter of fact, I got to see a lot of cool stuff.
Look at this. Dagestan explodes with delight after Khabib defeats McGregor. They're all going crazy with their hats on. Look at people out in the street cheering.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, man. Conor's, all the shit talk leading up to that fight, man, did that backfire. Like, on some people it works, and on some people it doesn't work at all, and it just makes him more relentless. When Khabib was hitting him, going, let's talk now. Come on, let's talk now.
Well, that's the thing with him, because he talks the whole time, right? Yeah, from the beginning of the day, he starts talking.
Khabib does?
Oh, yeah, he starts talking.
Really? What does he say?
Well, didn't you hear when he was fighting Johnson?
Yes, he's telling him, give up.
Yeah.
You know, I need that title shot, give up. And then he got him in that horrific Kimura. I was watching that Kimura. I was like, don't, just fucking tap. Come on, man. Tap. Come on, man.
Please.
Just feeling everything going pop, snap, pop. Oh, they didn't want to tap, man. Johnson's a tough guy.
Yeah, but the smack talk, I mean, that's what Conor does.
Yeah. Yeah, but this was a different level. Let's talk.
He's
like, come on, let's talk now. Can we hear it?
Yeah, it's Michael Johnson. Yeah.
Oh.
In between all that,
you have to give up. You have to give up. Yeah.
He sounds like he really cares about him too.
you know this, I deserve it.
You know this, I deserve it. I have to fight for the title. You know this, I deserve it. As he's beating him.
All right. Yeah.
And he's talking to someone on the side right now. Well, the problem with Nurmagomedov obviously was the last fight before this previous spectacular fight with Barboza. He didn't make the weight because he had to go to the hospital. Yeah. So that's a different animal. That's like, you pushed it so far that they wanted to make sure you stayed alive. So they had to bring you to a hospital. So they obviously realized there's some changes that need to be made. They made those changes. And fucking hell on Saturday night rather. Fucking hell.
Unbelievable.
Dude.
That was, it's really weird sometimes when you, in any sport, I don't care what it is, when you see somebody, Jordan in his prime, you just can't cover the guy. It's almost like he's the only one on the court.
Yeah.
Nurmagomedov, it was like he was the only one in the cage.
It was like everything was inevitable. Everything was inevitable. The takedown was inevitable. The beatings were inevitable. Even if you hit him, congratulations. Now you're on your ass. You're getting punched in the face over and over again. You can't get up. You're getting mauled. Like immediately.
And against an excellent fighter. People forget Barboza is amazing.
Amazing.
And he made him look like the look on his face when he got up. When Barboza was like, hey, you were better than me. It was almost like a shrug. It wasn't even mad. It was just when you see somebody that much better, it's back to the drawing board.
Well, I was super impressed with Barboza being able to make it to the final bell. I mean, that was amazing. Just being able to do that shows you what a dominant performance it was by a guy like Khabib. But you also realize like what a world-class fighter Barboza is, that he keeps throwing wheel kicks in the third round and even landed one of them. It just didn't have much on it anymore.
Didn't have the juice on it anymore.
But fuck, man, he was still trying to win after a horrendous mauling for 8+ minutes.
You know when I really look at fighters, when I really focus on them, especially the face, in between rounds, I look for that breaking moment of Vitor Belfort, Randy Couture, and he's sitting on the ground, just didn't even sit on a stool. He sat on the ground like beat. And I'm like, this guy's beat. It's when you look at them in between rounds and you see that like, what am I doing in here? That's when the men from the boys, mentally speaking. And in Bellator, Patricio Pitbull, I remember when he fought Daniel Strauss, he was getting beat up for like 4 rounds, and every round he looked like Lemmy Adam. There was and he won toward the end of the 4th round with a rear naked choke. He just never quits, and I always look for that breaking moment, man. Yeah. That's what really separates the guys who are mentally 100% there and those weren't.
I think Barboza got beaten, but I don't think he got broken.
No, I don't think so either.
If you think about the amount of time during that fight, he was actually getting his ass kicked. When I said 8, I think I might have said rounds. I meant minutes. I think there was like 8 minutes of prolonged top time and beating in that fight.
Yeah.
Plus. And then there's all the backward movement, trying to get away, throwing those inside leg kicks, and doing everything he can to create space. But for 8 fucking minutes, he never gave up. He was just, or whatever it was, 15 minutes, just getting the fuck beaten out of him. He kept trying to win. He wasn't capable of doing it, but he never broke.
Teddy Atlas said, fighters make an agreement. I'll stop trying to win if you'll stop trying to hurt me.
Whoa, yeah.
And he never did that. He never went, look, just go away. Just like, leave me alone and I'll back up and you can beat me. He never did that. He kept throwing the whole time, which is incredible, but just no answer. How many 10-8s were there on the scorecards? Like,
well, the thing is,
3 different
Jimmy,
cards. One had a 10-8 every round.
It was it was the old scoring too. The Nevada hasn't adopted the new rules. So for people who don't know, the new rules make it easier to make distinctions between a 10-9 round, 10-8 round, 10-7 round, which I agree.
They haven't adopted that.
No, Nevada has not.
So that's an old school 10-8.
Yeah.
It's an ass-whooping 10-8.
There was some ridiculous scorecards that it seemed to indicate to some of us that even though the new rules are better and the states haven't adopted them, the judges have decided to adopt them in some sort of a weird, non-declared way. Because it just definitely seemed there was a much larger disparity in the numbers in the scorecards.
Yeah.
But Nurmagomedov just mauled him. I mean, mauled him in a way that you go, oh, God.
You're not even there.
He's just on such another level that the odds of you beating him drop so substantially after the first minute and a half. After you saw the look on Barboza's face. There's like 2 minutes plus into the first round, and he's trying to get up. You see the look in his face. He's like, fuck, how am I going to deal with this?
Yeah.
Like, this is so next level.
The Joe Rogan experience.
It's the same with Khabib.
Yeah.
Oh, Khabib didn't fight anybody. No, motherfucker.
Yeah.
He makes them look like they're fighting me. That's the difference.
Look what he did to Justin Gaethje. That's all you need to know. If you say Justin Gaethje's a nobody, you're crazy. You watch that Tony Ferguson fight, Justin Gaethje's a fucking animal.
He's a savage.
And he just closed that gap. And he ate a lot of leg kicks too, man. he had a lot of leg kicks that would, I mean, I don't know how many of those you can eat from Justin.
Right.
Maybe he had like 5 or 6 more in the tank.
Right.
So you're on E. But he closed the gap and then wound up finishing with a triangle off of his back. I mean, god damn.
A serious question about this, because I went through it a couple times. So from the moment he got kicked, then he initiates the takedown. So it was a kick. He tried the first round. He did it off a head inside single. Didn't work. Second round, he tried it off a double from the outside leg kick. First round was an inside leg kick, hence the inside single. Didn't work. So then he goes to the double. It's 22 seconds from that till the finish. So 22 seconds, we're apart. 22 seconds later, you're unconscious. I mean, this is my question to you. Is that the best back take you've ever seen in MMA? Because what he does is when Gaethje is sprawling in this contest, he's not just sprawling. He is sprawling and turning so he doesn't get pushed into the fence. He was very diligent about that in the Alvarez and the Gaethje fights. You can go back and you can watch it. So in this fight, when you see the level change that Khabib hits, you see automatically Gaethje turn because he doesn't want to get turned that direction. But what Khabib does is he actually scoots under him, pulls him up, and then with his head posts him over, gets the hands to plant. Well, once the hands are planted, the double is over. He doesn't care about it anymore. Now he just wants the tight waist. And from the tight waist, he's holding, his elbows aren't flared. They're tight here, right? Like he's T-Rexing inside. At that point, you have created, if you're Justin Gaethje, putting your hands, you've created a stable structure for this guy to now mount. Plus, if you want to escape to the fence to like stand, he can control the ascent. So he goes, double, turns, pushes hands to the mat, forces Gaethje down, and then with his gable grip, then keeps it there and then replaces it with the hooks, and then turns it into a fake, not a real Joe Rogan, a fake head and arm triangle attempt, just so Gaethje gets his elbows away from his body. Then he chair sits to occupy the space, then throws the leg over, and then sits back and takes mercy upon him, as we learned later from Daniel Cormier. Rather than armbar him in front of his mom's, I'm just going to triangle you because that's the merciful. This guy is out here taking fucking pity on his opponents. And he's doing back takes like that. He is, John Jones to me is the most accomplished fighter we've ever seen. Like the things accumulate over time. No one is as flawless as Khabib Nurmagomedov. Not even close.
I think that is the argument, right? Like, who is the GOAT? I think if you look at John Jones's early career, right? John Jones wins the title in 2011, and from then on has fought more fights as championship fights than he has other fights. So he's the most accomplished for sure. Wins the title, the earliest, youngest guy to ever win the title in the UFC. Beats Mauricio Shogun Rua, who's a legend. And then the way he dominates all these other fighters, up until you get to Alexander Gustafsson, you could make the argument that he had a similar career. You could make the argument, like if you look at what he did, John didn't lose any rounds. John was smashing people. You look what he did to Rashad Evans. You look what he did to Rampage Jackson. You look what he did to Lyoto Machida. Look what he did to everybody. Everybody he fought up until the Gustafsson fight. But the Gustafsson fight, then you have to say, well, how much slack do you give him for admittedly not training? Because it was a really close fight. He pulls it out in the championship round, even though he's out of shape, even though you talked to Greg Jackson, he didn't train for that fight. Didn't fucking train. Like, barely worked out, but definitely didn't go through a training camp. Still managed to beat one of the best guys in the division after getting taken down for the first time in his career. Then goes on a tear, right? You look at the way he beat Daniel Cormier in the first fight. Took him down. Like, who the fuck takes Daniel Cormier down, right? And then you look at him in the second fight. Even though it was ruled a no contest, we know what the fuck happened. He head kicked him and stopped him. You know, it was spectacular. You look at what John has done, then you have to take into account the things that didn't go that well. And we haven't seen those from Khabib yet. You have to take into account the fight like Thiago Santos, right? That fucker goes to a split decision. You're like, whoa, Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes thought he won the fight.
Right.
Real close fight. So those fights haven't happened with Khabib yet. And we don't know if they ever could. We don't know, right? Like right now, would you see flawless victory after flawless victory? You could maybe make the argument that Khabib lost 2 rounds his entire career. Maybe the second round against Justin, or first round rather, maybe first round rather against Justin, and maybe the third round with Conor.
That's right.
That's it. Right. And either one of those didn't get cut, didn't get dropped, didn't get hurt.
Right. To never get cut and to never get dropped, I don't think folks understand what that means.
Crazy.
In a sport filled with, it's not a scientific measurement per se, right? Who gets cut the most or something, but in a sport built on unpredictability, on violence. St. Pierre went to wrestling to get away from all of that in large part, and then to never experience that, it's like It is shocking beyond description.
Shocking.
I don't know how to explain that to folks. It's but to your point, the thing about Khabib where he falls short is that it's just an inevitability. Like your run through 29 fights is the best run I've seen through 29 fights ever. But and John's not my best friend or anything, but I just don't. That is the best total resume I've ever seen.
John is the best resume.
It's not. I mean, I know he was getting all salty on Twitter, being like, "These fucking Khabib fans." It's like, dude,
he shouldn't do that.
Oh, well, he shouldn't do it. But here's my point to John. It's like, dude, put the keyboard down for just a second. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go to heavyweight, and you're going to probably win. I mean, I don't know if that's a guarantee, but let's assume that you do. All of the conversation, everything that happens right now is just recency bias. And Khabib retired, and his father died, and it was this incredibly sad and inspiring moment. Let the fucking guy have his moment, because when you have your moment, all of the worm is going to turn.
Yeah,
and then everyone's going to be like, John's the fucking greatest. He's going to get his, just not today at this moment.
Recency bias, that's real. Recent bias that's a real thing. Like, we just watched Khabib, and then the fact that Khabib did supposedly retire. Come on, son. I know you want some more.
Yeah, I know. I haven't eaten much, so my head is spinning a little bit.
That's all right.
Everyone asks me, like, when I go on, it's like, are you going to smoke weed? I'm like, there's no chance I'm smoking Joe Rogan's fucking super weed.
There's no chance I'm smoking it right now.
Salud.
I haven't done anything in a month. I had a couple glasses of wine last night, and I was like, woo.
Yeah, I'm feeling it a little bit. Gotta be careful.
The John Jones situation is also it's a contrast in personalities, right? Khabib, who's this really religious, very moral, ethical person who doesn't drink, he doesn't party, he doesn't do anything, he just trains. He's always in phenomenal shape. He takes every fight incredibly serious. He's never been out of shape. He's never been fat. He's missed weight a couple of times earlier in his career, but he got that dialed in. He's just so dedicated. Whereas John is a wild man. He's just wild.
I mean, you talk about not training for the for the
legitimate tough guys. They're tough.
Do you think that you need trolling now for fight sports? Are we at a point where that's the only thing that engages the casual fan?
Well, Khabib Nurmagomedov is the biggest draw in combat sports, and he doesn't do any trash talk.
But is that a reflection of dominance? It's like, are we kind of watching to see if he'll lose, like the Mayweather effect?
Well.
Like, how many people are rooting for... Like, Khabib seems like incredibly, sweet guy, and he's, a consummate professional, but I feel like the way you market the fight is not in the way that when we were younger watching Roy Jones, we're like, yo, Roy's going to do some crazy thing where, puts his hand behind his back and he just knocks the dude out. Like, we were rooting for Roy to win, even in his most dominant time. I feel like now the way you promote the fight is, oh, this is the perfect guy to take out Khabib. Mm-hmm. Justin's the perfect. Oh, yeah, he's got striking, but he has a wrestling background. We're kind of thinking of different ways we take him down. Whereas, I don't know. I don't know if we're rooting for him to win in that way.
Well, if you're a fan of his, you're rooting for him to win.
Sure, and I'm sure if you're from Dagestan and that kind of stuff.
When you have a guy who's Khabib's 28 or 29-0 and really has smashed everybody in front of him, you always wonder who's going to be the guy that solves that riddle.
Yeah,
and Justin came real close with those leg kicks. He was really fucking up his leg.
Yeah,
but Khabib figured out a way to get the fight to the ground. Almost finished it at the beginning or the end rather of the first round, and then got him in the second round.
Yeah,
He's on another level.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that happens when you got to realize that guy is supremely disciplined.
Yeah.
Supremely dedicated. Doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't fuck around, doesn't abuse his body, always fit, always in shape, always training, and lives like a champion. And is very religious, very devout Muslim, doesn't
I think that
doesn't
helps.
fuck. Oh yeah. He's
it's
so
that discipline.
No partying. He's not partying. He's not doing coke and banging hoes. There's none of that. He's just smashing people.
Yeah.
But I think they're trying to talk him into having more fights. But he told his mother that he was going to retire after he fought Gaethje.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
But you know what, man? He's in his prime, and you only get one prime.
Yeah.
And, and as
what more can he
the
prove,
most dominant man in the sport.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
It's that weight cut he had there, it was going around again from his, his last fight.
Oh, he always cuts a lot of weight, man.
But it was apparently very brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal.
But what more can he prove?
He's not really 155 pounds. There's a